What's up everybody, I'm Stella Chung and this is the Weekly Fix, the show where we round up all the gaming and entertainment headlines you may have missed this week. Elden Ring is getting a major update that will add ray tracing to all current-gen consoles, plus The Last of Us Part 1 isn't looking too pretty on PC. In the entertainment world, we've got our first real good look at Lady Gaga's Harley Quinn, and Zack Snyder is throwing his very own convention. News in time? News in time.
Elden Ring now has a ray tracing graphics option for the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC versions of the game, courtesy of patch 1.09. The update was pushed out earlier today to all versions of the game, though the new ray tracing feature won't be available on PlayStation 4 or Xbox One. Ray tracing can be toggled on and off via the Game Options menu on console and via the Graphics menu on PC. Bandai Namco did caution that both frame rate and resolution may be impacted while playing with ray tracing on. Along with the new ray tracing option, the 1.09 patch brought a slew of bug fixes and balance adjustments to the game that affect everything from attribute scaling and buffs to attack speeds and Ashes of War. A number of PvP-specific nerfs have also been introduced, and an invincibility window has been added for players respawning in the Coliseum. You can check out the full patch notes on IGN. Last month saw the reveal of the upcoming DLC expansion, Shadow of the Erdtree, which followed the announcement that Elden Ring has officially sold over 20 million copies since its launch in February 2022. The Lords of the Fallen, the long-awaited sequel to 2014 Souls-like Lords of the Fallen, has now been renamed, wait for it, Lords of the Fallen. The name change was subtly baked into a technical showcase released yesterday, March 22nd. This means the sequel now shares the exact same name with the original game. The Lords of the Fallen sequel was re-revealed at Gamescom 2022 after years of troubled development spread across several different studios. It's back on track, however, and a first look at its gameplay was released in December last year. Developed in Unreal Engine 5, the RPG promises tough-as-nails combat in a dark fantasy world taking place 1,000 years after the events of the original game. The new Lords of the Fallen doesn't have a release date yet, but is coming to PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, and PC. When it arrives, it will be one of the very few games that use Unreal Engine 5 on consoles. We gave the original a 7.4 back in 2014. Other outlets felt similarly about it, since it has a 69 on OpenCritic. Hopefully the sequel to Lords of the Fallen, is an improvement.
Naughty Dog's critically acclaimed, best-selling, award-winning The Last of Us Part 1 finally came to PC this week, and while there's no question that it's a good game, from the sound of things, the PC port is not great. On Steam, the game has received mostly negative reviews, with only 33% of players reporting a positive experience, with the other 67% reporting a laundry list of technical issues due to poor optimization for PC. A major issue seems to be that shader compiling takes a long time, especially on PCs that only barely meet the game's requirements, and many users are reporting it crashing frequently, often just from the main menu. On the bright side, users have been sharing screenshots and clips of weird bugs, including Joel and Ellie looking extremely rough around the edges in some cases, quite literally. The PC port was handled by Iron Galaxy, which previously worked on the Uncharted Legacy of Thieves Collection's PC version, as well as lending support for the recent Metroid Prime remaster. Naughty Dog is aware of the situation, posting on the official Twitter account, "We've heard your concerns and our team is actively investigating multiple issues you've reported," and promises to address problems with updates and patches. The PC release was already delayed once, originally slated for March 3rd, but it looks like it needed a little bit more time than that. Somehow, it's already almost April, and while I have no idea where March went, something I do know is what's coming to PlayStation Plus next month. On April 4th, Meet Your Maker will be available to all PS Plus Extra and Premium subscribers, which this is a first-person rating and building game where you can either navigate levels filled with death-defying traps and hazards, or you can create levels of your own to challenge other players. The game was developed by Dead by Daylight creators Behavior Interactive, and it'll be interesting to see what kind of user-created levels show up. The other game hitting PS Plus that day is Sackboy's Big Adventure, which features Little Big Planet's adorable burlap hero, but not its creation tools. But hey, if you're feeling the urge to design some levels, you could do that in Meet Your Maker instead. Tales of Iron is on the list to come to PS Plus, and this is an RPG adventure game with surprisingly punishing combat. It's sort of like Souls-inspired combat with a 2D medieval hand-drawn art that combines to make a unique story. Also, you play as a cute little mouse warrior who's trying to take back their kingdom. So, you have your pick of PS Plus games for next month.
Moving on. Nintendo has finally shared uninterrupted gameplay of The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom ahead of its May release date. The new footage showed off 4 new abilities for Link, a closer look at the Sky Islands we've seen in all the trailers, weapon durabilities return, and a lot more. For example, a new recall ability allows Link to rewind an object's movement. He can use that to ride an object that fell from the sky, well, back into the sky. A new fuse ability allows Link to combine weapons and items to craft stronger tools. Zelda series producer Eiji Aonuma also shared off the new Ultra Hand ability, which is the way Link will construct the vehicles seen in the last Tears of the Kingdom trailer. It's also a fun little nod to an obscure Nintendo toy from the 1960s developed by Gunpei Yokoi, who would go on to design the Game Boy. The new Ascend ability allows Link to move through ceilings to advance to the next floor. And finally, Aonuma confirmed that Tears of the Kingdom has wrapped development ahead of its May 12th release date. Oh, and there was one more thing. Nintendo has announced that Tears of the Kingdom is getting a limited edition OLED Switch console. The limited edition will be released slightly earlier than Tears of the Kingdom itself on April 28th. Note that it does not come with the game installed or in the box. A limited edition Pro controller was also announced, featuring a black and white design, again decorated with gold patterns and a Triforce in the background. Completing the collection, there's a Tears of the Kingdom themed carrying case for the console. These will both launch alongside the game on May 12th. Moving on from Nintendo, the Japan Fair Trade Commission, or JFTC, has approved Microsoft's acquisition of Activision Blizzard after its review concluded that the deal was, quote, unlikely to result in substantially restraining competition. The JFTC's decision to not challenge the merger will come as welcome news to Microsoft, as it campaigns to convince regulators in holdout countries, including the United States, that the deal will not harm competition or increase costs for consumers. Last week, the UK's Competition and Market Authority, CMA, softened its stance on the merger. However, a final verdict from the CMA, which is viewed as one of the greatest potential roadblocks to the deal's completion, isn't due until the end of April. And finally today, Player First Games, the developer behind Multiversus, confirmed that players who spent money on the game throughout the open beta will not get a refund. Now, yesterday it was announced that Multiversus would shut down its online features on June 25th and will aim to launch the full game by early 2024. As for players who have spent money in the free-to-play game, a statement on the official website reads, refunds are not available as a result of the open beta closure. However, all progress and previously earned or purchased content will carry over when Multiversus returns in early 2024. It does beg the question, if the game was in open beta, why were they charging money for anything at all? And why were people spending money in an open beta with an uncertain future? Multiversus was successful at launch and IGN gave it an 8 out of 10. However, as of February this year, player count had dropped off nearly 99% since that launch.
With Resident Evil 4 Remake launching today, you probably thought we'd have to wait a while for any new updates in the game. Well, you're wrong. Resident Evil 4 Remake's Horde-style mode, the Mercenaries, will release April 7th, which is in 2 weeks. While Capcom had confirmed in the 2023 State of Play last month that the Mercenaries would be coming as a free, post-release update, players suspected this would come much later after the remake's release. This is the first DLC that will hit RE4 Remake and is completely free to all players. The Mercenaries is a mode where players must kill enemies in a specific amount of time before the evacuation chopper comes to pick you up. You can also find different ways to extend your stay in the undead-infested grounds by picking up items that will increase your time. Just like in the original game, you can unlock the Mercenaries mode after completing the main game story mode in any difficulty. I'm sure most players will blast through the main story in no time and be anxiously awaiting those 2 weeks for the Mercenaries, but at least you have something to look forward to. Or you could try your hand at beating the main story in professional difficulty mode, which you can't change once you select. But, I mean, hey, it's an easy way to keep yourself busy till April 7th. I know we're probably all sick and tired of hearing about minor updates on the Activision Blizzard acquisition deal from Microsoft, but we now have a major step forward in the case. The UK's Competitions and Markets Authority, or the CMA, revealed it's less concerned over the deal going through now. Previously, the CMA was concerned about Microsoft harming the competition of game sales if Call of Duty was made an Xbox exclusive. The CMA released a statement saying that this concern was addressed and is no longer an issue. It only took Microsoft stating that they wouldn't make Call of Duty an exclusive 1,000 times to be heard, but hey, I totally get the legal investigative duties. To further what Microsoft had been stating, the CMA also stated that it would not make sense for Call of Duty to be an exclusive since it would lose Xbox money. I mean, yeah, no shit. Even though this is a huge step forward in the investigations, the CMA still says it has major concerns over its impact on the cloud gaming market. But that's definitely less of a problem than with the fight against PlayStation. Martin Coleman, the CMA's chair of the independent panel of experts, said,
Having considered the additional evidence provided, we now have provisionally concluded that the merger will not result in a substantial lessening of competition in console gaming services because the cost to Microsoft of withholding Call of Duty from PlayStation would outweigh any gains from taking such action. Coleman also added that the final verdict should arrive by the end of April. So we get the Resident Evil 4 Remake Mercenaries mode and an update to this Microsoft Activision Blizzard acquisition investigation. Sweet! Dark and Darker, that Escape from Tarkov but in medieval times game, was just delisted from Steam after the developer Iron Mace was served a cease and desist letter and a DMCA takedown. This is probably not the extraction D&D wanted. What, too soon? Fine, whatever, sorry. D&D just recently had a massive open beta to test its servers and continued work on development back in February. On the official Dark and Darker Twitter account, the pinned message was about another playtest coming April 14th to the 19th, but now with this delisting and DMCA takedown, we might have to wait longer before we get to play again. On the official D&D Discord, the developers stated they had been served a cease and desist letter and DMCA takedown by Nexon, a Japanese South Korean video game publisher. They went on to say, "We are currently working with our legal team to remedy this issue in the best manner possible. Due to the sensitive legal nature of this issue, we must be careful with our statements so as to not jeopardize our position. We ask for your understanding as we work to get the game back up as quickly as possible. Please know that we will do all that is possible for our fans. Thanks." Earlier this month, Iron Mace had its offices searched by Korean officials on speculation that it may be in possession of stolen code and assets, as nearly half of Iron Mace's 20-person team is actually made up of former Nexon employees. That search did come out in Iron Mace's favor, as they stated the search was quick and nothing was found. However, we have no idea how the future of D&D is going to look. The first statements about the takedown came on the 24th this month, and Iron Mace has been pretty quiet since then. There's literally no trace of D&D having existed on Steam, with all of its pages and videos and screenshots all taken down. So I guess we'll have to wait and see how this pans out, and we could probably at least expect an update on whether or not that April playtest will be happening. Since this is a new ongoing situation, we'll be sure to keep you updated as soon as we find out more details. It's time to take a quick break. When we come back, Disney has laid off the chairman and CEO of Marvel Entertainment. Plus, we get a new behind-the-scenes look at Lady Gaga's upcoming Harley Quinn performance. See you in a bit. Welcome back. Hope you guys are sitting down for this one. Zack Snyder is throwing his very own convention all about his DC films called SnyderCon. But first, a brand new photo of Lady Gaga dressed up as Harley Quinn for the upcoming Joker sequel has been revealed. Let's find out some more.
Right, we've got a new glimpse at Lady Gaga's DC character spotted filming the Joker sequel in New York. And while fans might remember this photo, posted by director Todd Phillips on Instagram, featuring Joaquin Phoenix's Joker and Lady Gaga as Dr. Harleen Quinzel, in these new photos that have hit the internet, we see her decked out in a red blazer, black diamond top with subtle clown makeup on. Now, this might be the first look at Lady Gaga's Harley Quinn, but likely not the final form of the villainous vixen we'll see in the DC film. Now, Lady Gaga's depiction of Harley Quinn is quite the departure from what we've seen from the Suicide Squad movies, with Margot Robbie portraying Harley, but given a significant tonal shift the Joker movie has taken regarding the Clown Prince of Crime, it's to be expected. Now, looking at this version of Harley Quinn, and given the more grounded and dark tone of the first Joker movie, it kind of reminds me of DC Black Label's Harleen, which explores Harley Quinn's past before the makeup and mallet, diving deeper into how her abusive past affected her and how the Joker was able to manipulate her. Now, it's a really interesting take on her origin story, which feels more mature than what we've seen in the Mad Love episode of Batman the Animated Series. It's a really good read, which dives deeper into the manipulation tactics the Joker used in order to bring her closer to his maniacal side. It's a gritty tale, and it likely served as some inspiration for Todd Phillips' take on Harley Quinn and Joker 2. And while it hasn't been confirmed officially, based on certain crowd signs seen on set and in these images, it's rumored Harvey Dent might be appearing in the upcoming movie. Now, one of the signs in the photo reads, quote, "Harvey Dent is the clown," suggesting Arthur Fleck might be going up against the district attorney in the court of law. Now, perhaps we'll see an appearance of Two-Face, which will put a different meaning to Joker folie à deux. Now, folie à deux, that term meaning the mental illness shared between two individuals. Now, that could either be between Arthur Fleck and Harley Quinn, or maybe the Joker and Harvey Dent's evil side in Two-Face. And we'll have to wait and see what it all means as filming continues, with a release date slated for October 4th, 2024. All right, from DC to Marvel news, the Disney Plus Daredevil series is apparently already planned out for a second season. Now, according to actor Vincent D'Onofrio, who plays Kingpin, while speaking with Newsweek, he said, quote, "By the second season, there are gigantic payoffs. In the first season too, but I can't say much about that, but the fans are gonna really get what they want." So while there hasn't been any official announcement of a second season, given the actor's comments, it sounds as though there are plans and a draft has already been written up. Now, Marvel Studios is really banking on the success of Daredevil Born Again, feeding into the popularity of the character with his appearance in Spider-Man No Way Home and the She-Hulk Disney Plus series. Now, with a second season likely planned for the upcoming Disney Plus series, looks like we can expect to see plenty more of the Man Without Fear on the small screen. Now let's talk about the runtime of Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Now it's looking like it'll be 2.5 hours long, but rest assured, true believers, not a second is wasted according to director James Gunn. Now, taking to Twitter to respond to a fan's question on the runtime, Gunn had this to say, quote, "It's around that long, although that's not yet exact, and I promise not a second is wasted. There's no fat. It was necessary to experience the full arc for every major Guardians character, not only for this film, but for the trilogy, or should I say Trilogy Plus." Now, the Trilogy Plus comment, of course, refers to the holiday special we got on Disney Plus last year. Now, with this being the last Guardians movie, it makes sense James Gunn will want to wrap up loose ends and properly bring each character's story full circle and see to them receiving some form of closure, even if we might see some of them show up down the line in one of the Avengers movies. Now, fortunately, we won't have to wait too long to see how it all wraps up, as Guardians 3 is scheduled to premiere May 5th, 2023. All right, it's looking like Marvel Entertainment's chairman is out at Disney, with the consumer products focused department reportedly being folded into various other parts of the company. Isaac Perlmutter's ousting as Marvel Entertainment's chairman is just one of 7,000 layoffs Disney CEO Bob Iger announced as part of the company's new strategic realignment initiative. Perlmutter, as the chairman of Marvel Entertainment, had quite the run, with reports of Bob Iger having to step in to stop the chairman from firing Kevin Feige back in 2015 after the two butted heads. Kevin Feige was running Marvel Studios at the time, and he's spoken about Perlmutter pushing back on his continuous efforts to diversify the MCU. As for the planned layoff of 7,000 employees, Disney is hoping it'll cut back on costs that tally to $5.5 billion for the company. Now, the layoff started this week, and in an email sent out to staff, Iger stated that this move is to create a, quote, "more effective, coordinated, and streamlined approach to our business." Now, the layoffs will continue into the month of April, so it's looking like a slow and methodical approach, as thousands of Disney employees will soon be seeking employment elsewhere. Now, it's rather interesting that this is the first move Iger is making in his return as CEO at Disney. Now, you may remember Bob Iger served as CEO for 15 years before Bob Chapek took over for just a little less than 3 years. Now, Chapek's run as CEO clearly didn't work for the company, as we now have Iger returning in the very same role and seemingly dismantling the structure that Chapek had established at Disney during his short stint as CEO. Now, along with these layoffs, Iger is also doing some restructuring to some of the main pillars at Disney. Now, moving forward, the company will apparently operate under 3 main branches: Disney Entertainment, ESPN, and Disney Parks. Now, whether or not these cuts and restructuring will fix things over at Disney remains to be seen, but it definitely seems Iger is set on course correcting some of the missteps made during Bob Chapek's time as CEO. Now, just to note, Bob Iger has a 2-year contract as CEO for Disney, and he currently has no plans to continue his tenure as chairman after that time period. Now, handing the conversation over to you all watching, what do you think about this shakeup over at Disney? Now, this is obviously public news now, so curious to know what you might think is the real reason behind Bob Iger making these massive cuts to the workforce at Disney. Let's talk about it down below in the comments. Now, in other news, there seems to be even more truth out there, as apparently the hit supernatural series The X-Files is getting a reboot. The creator of the series, Chris Carter, had this to say while on the CBC podcast On the Coast.
I just spoke to a young man, Ryan Coogler, who is going to remount The X-Files with a diverse cast So he's got his work cut out for him because we covered so much territory.
So while there's no official word from 20th Television on a reboot of The X-Files based on the creators' conversation with Black Panther director Ryan Coogler, it's at least in the early concept stages at this particular moment. Now, Ryan Coogler's production company, Proximity Media, is under a 5-year exclusive deal with Disney Television, so this might be one of the productions slated to fall underneath that particular banner. Now, The X-Files is currently celebrating its 30th anniversary this year with a fan fest for the show happening July 7th and the 8th. You can find out more information about it online. Now, looking at Adult Swim, it appears we'll be getting an extra hour of the adult animated programming on Cartoon Network. Now, speaking exclusively to Deadline, the president of Cartoon Network said, quote, "We're all feeling more possibility this year," and went on to say, quote, "We've always, in every iteration of this company, been this little animation operation in Atlanta, Georgia. We sort of invented our own set of rules because we weren't in New York and we weren't in LA." Now, he went on to talk about how the market has calmed down a bit, giving them more opportunity to spot talent in the animation sector. And with Adult Swim making the move to prime time on television, it'll be interesting to see how Adult Swim leads the charge in adult animation. Now, the new early block of Adult Swim kicks off May 1st. Now, you may remember that cryptic tweet from Zack Snyder that had Apocalypse telling us to save the date for something major happening April 28th through the 30th. Well, we finally have details on what's going on. It's SnyderCon, baby! Now, if you're wondering what that is, well, fans can look forward to screenings from Snyder's greatest DC hits, Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, and Zack Snyder's Justice League, all happening in LA on those days respectively. Now, tickets will go on sale later this month, with the Man of Steel film containing a post-film Q&A panel on the 28th, a fan signing happening after the Batman v Superman screening on the 29th, and another Q&A happening after the screening of Zack Snyder's Justice League. As to why he felt now's the time for this special event to take place, Snyder mentioned that he'd always wanted to screen his DC films all together in theaters, and this was the perfect opportunity to give back to the fans that rallied around the Snyder Cut movement. Now, tickets for the LA event go on sale later this month, with purchases going to benefit awareness for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. All right, now in other DC-related news, Zachary Levi went on social media with a very heated rant about the performance of Shazam 2, where he goes into great detail about how certain DC characters were blocked from appearing in both Shazam movies. Now, he also addressed the Instagram story from the rap he reshared on his social media, which went into detail about how The Rock possibly blocked certain JSA characters from showing up in the Shazam sequel, as well as not wanting Levi's character to make an appearance in Black Adam. Take a look at what he had to say.
For years, we have been doing everything we can to fight for you, the fans. Yes, even all of you fans that don't like me, all of you fans who love Henry Cavill, we tried desperately to get Henry Cavill in the first movie. He wasn't a headless Superman because we wanted him to be a headless Superman. We were thwarted. All of these hardworking people were thwarted. We were not allowed to have that happen, okay? That was not on us. That was not because we didn't want that to happen for you. Listen, guys, I am a comic nerd. I've been growing up with this stuff. I love all this stuff. I want to blow all of your minds with all the crossovers and all the goods. And trust me, it bummed me out greatly when we couldn't get Henry Cavill. I wanted him so bad in the first movie, and we couldn't get him. That was not because we didn't try. That was not because we chose not to have him there. So our intent, our desire, Walter Hamada, Peter Safran, David Sandberg, myself, everybody, we had an awesome scene that would have tied me in to the JSA with Hawkman and with Cyclone, and we were thwarted. This is not me. I'm not talking about these things as I'm trying to blame anybody for our movie doing however well or not well it's doing. I am merely coming to the defense of the people that ought to be defended. I'm coming to the defense of truth. Because truth is good, and we should all live in it, guys. Even when it's hard, even when it's something that might fly in the face of something that we already might have believed before, and now it challenges whatever our idea or our opinion is. We need to live in the truth. Okay, I may or may not have, reposted something in my stories about a story that I had nothing to do with, that The Wire had reported on. And then I got flack about it because people were saying, "Oh, what are you doing? You're trying to blame this guy because your movie's not doing well. Like you're trying to blame us. Listen, I haven't blamed anybody. There's not one single person that I have blamed for anything with the way that our movie has performed. I legitimately haven't. And if you're listening to videos or watching videos of me or looking at things and you're getting that idea, you are being fooled. You are being brainwashed. You are looking at propaganda. Those are clips. Those are edited. Those are taken completely out of context. And so I just encourage you, if you're out there, if you're hearing this right now, or if you see, by the way, this will probably all get chopped up too.
Well, he was right about one thing. It was definitely going to get chopped up and reposted, but it's merely to contextualize what he's talking about and give some insight to his frustrations. Now, the thing is, no one is against him or the film. It's just unfortunate Shazam 2 had the worst DCU opening at the box office, only pulling in $30 million when it premiered. And now it appears the film will see home release just a month after being in theaters. Now, it definitely would have been nice to get a Shazam and Black Adam crossover, but sometimes egos just get in the way of certain things happening in Hollywood. We get it.
I'm Stella Chung, and that was your weekly fix. We'll be back here next Saturday with more of the biggest gaming and entertainment news of the week. See you then.